right, everybody. Got another very special guest for you all today. Everybody, please welcome to the show, Robbie Atkinson. Welcome, Robbie.
Hello, hello. How are you guys doing?
Great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I just came from a convention, a couple day long adventure, and
Yeah.
a number of other things. But yeah, that was all fun.
So you're ready and like warmed up to talk about your project today, so it's it's all good, right? You've had a whole
Yes.
weekend of it.
Right. No, I've had plenty of.
So
Yes.
it's your first time on the show, so we're gonna do the annoying thing of putting you through the gauntlet of, telling us how you got in comics, and I guess, more specifically we're talking about a manga today. So, if you want to just start there for us, I mean, you're probably a fan from the start, right? But how did you get into creating your own book and stuff?
Yes. Well, honestly, I feel like that was something that I had wanted to do since childhood. I was always someone who enjoyed writing stories. I was always someone who enjoyed creating these narratives. And I kind of stuck along that vein when I went into college, went and got my degree in film. But after I did our most recent project, which was a short, it's actually premiering at a festival here in November, um, I figured, I mean, if I could do that, I could do the manga. And I realized like honestly, I didn't know anything about it, but I was like, it's storytelling. So anything I need to learn, any skill I need to learn, it can be learned because I have the foundation already. And so really that put me on the path of just putting the manga out there because I had the idea for many years and I just didn't write it down and develop it out. And then I really started taking it seriously, I would say towards the end of like 2023. And then this year is like the first full year of going like all out with it. Um, and I mean, I've honestly, I grew up watching Sailor Moon. I grew up
Nice.
sneaking up at night to watch Adult Swim, and Inuyasha, and Cowboy
Yep.
Bebop, and all of that.
Bleach.
So, I got that exposure, and I had that foundation there as well. Couple that with classes that orient you towards crafting stories, and I think it kind of just, to me, it was a matter of time before this happened, perhaps.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. You have a question, I can tell.
I was just gonna say, did it sounds like you veered more towards like Japanese comics as opposed to the American centric? Is that correct?
Correct.
So, you went to school for film, and Chris and I have talked about this with quite a few creators in the past, but there's quite a very similar connection between cinematography and comic book paneling, right? And how you visualize stories. Um, do you think, obviously your background in film helped with that, right? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I mean, the concept of mise en scène, the concept of composition, shot composition, um, what is in focal point, what is off to the side, why is it off to the side, graphic blocking. These are things that you had to learn for cinematography classes. You had to learn this as a director to know what character is most important, what emotion are you trying to convey, what relational dynamic are you trying to play up, what's the subtext of the situation using just the physicality of the characters, and really being able to expand on that to the nth degree with manga panels because you have an artist who is not relegated to a budget as it relates to equipment in the sense that with film, what you want is very much tied to what kind of equipment you have available to capture the angle that you need. Whereas with the manga, your illustrator, if they have a clear mental image of it, based on what Walla and Ali have said to me, if you provide enough context and give enough information, then it's very easy for them to fill in that plus more.
As long as you're not having them draw a bunch of little tedious lines every, they usually don't get too upset with that. But
Well, that's
yeah.
this is the funny thing is that Walla actually is that's what drew me to Walla is Walla's attention to detail. Walla
Yeah.
likes to add in really
Oh,
fine
really?
lines. So I'm like, have at it. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
So
And I looked at one of the preview chapters online for the Seventh Kingdom, and I noticed, yeah, the attention to detail. But there's a lot of action scenes and fighting in the first chapter, or at least for the preview page that I saw
mhm.
online. Do you find that's harder to write, or is that easier to write because it's like it's a lot of direction for the artist, right? Because there isn't a whole lot of dialogue and stuff going on. So how is that relationship with the artist?
It's not hard to write. I think because I have a clear mental image of it. And Walla has been like scarily on point, and emphasize scarily on point because it's like they're reading my mind. In like the way they deliver. And it's oftentimes exactly, I mean, down to like the bartender in the sneak peek edition that you saw, right? The
Yep.
dude who's shooting at the main character, right?
Hmm.
Even down to how this character was drawn. I described him as bald and muscular, but Walla added in the extra detail of him basically not having eyebrows, which was actually something I envisioned. I just didn't say it because I was like, if he has it, it doesn't matter. It's not like the plot changes based on his
Right.
eyebrows, right? But Walla did exactly that. I was like, whoa. And so that's always a treat. But I mean, I think as long as you have that clear image, I will not lie, when it comes to action scenes, I've had times where I had to kind of pause and be like, okay, because in my head, I was like, all right, I see it clearly, but when I write it, it's like he throws a punch, she dodges, she ducks, she
Yeah.
slides. It's like it
Yeah.
feels a bit tedious, you know?
Right.
So I had to go and watch like a scene from Castlevania and kind of like say, okay, she swings, he dodges, she swings three more times.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, and to figure out how to make that a little bit more vivid. But
Yeah.
it's not so bad actually. It's quite fun, I think.
Probably a good place to say to our audience, like, what is Seventh Kingdom? Like, what's your pitch for the book for people out there? What the
Yeah.
story's about?
This is a sci-fi fantasy adventure about a sheltered young woman who collides with dark revelations about her family history and the world around her, while going on a journey of revenge against the Seventh Kingdom, which is a powerful entity that destroys her village. Um, and this is a series that has a lot of really deep themes in it. I will say this much. If you watch the series just because you like the action, you'll get something out of it. If you watch it, if you read it because you want something deeper to dive into, you want layers to peel back, as someone who was big into film theory, that's also in there.
Cool.
If you want allegory and commentary about complacency and apathy in society, you'll get that. If you want to just see someone get left right piece and you want intense fight scenes, you're gonna get that too. So that's really what I present here.
That's awesome. And it talks about like a story of revenge, right, for the main character a little bit. Do you do the like uh things I've seen in a lot of like Japanese cinema and other stories, like the oh, you have to fight all these different leaders or like of other kingdoms? Are we going to see that? Because that's my favorite like trope in
The
in
mini
the
boss
Japanese
is on the
films.
way to the
Yeah,
main boss.
yeah, the like
Mhm.
main boss and the main boss. Are we going to see like a story like that? Is she going to meet like a lot of crazy characters along the way?
Absolutely,
Hmm.
mostly because the king of the Seven Kingdom catches on to Clarabelle pretty quickly and he throws the whole fence at her. So he opens the floor up to bounty hunters and anyone else that she just rubs wrong. Kind of
Nice.
goes after her. And I'm actually at a chapter right now. I just finished chapter 18, working on chapter 19, and there's about to be three or four different people attacking all at once. So
Wow, that's awesome. I love that.
Have you
Yeah.
been releasing
thank you.
the series in any way, chapter by chapter, like traditional manga has in like Shonen Jump or whatever? Or have you just been getting them all
We
together,
will
collecting them, and putting out the trades?
We will be. Actually, we're going to be doing both right now because this is literally the first year working on the whole series ever. We're just pushing out the first chapter. As things progress and as we have more developments, then we will start releasing more chapters. And eventually, I would like to offer like a kind of like an omnibus or like a box set where people can get multiple things bundled together, which we kind of already have, but it's less about the chapters and that's more related to merch. That's another story. But yes, so both.
Okay. And the volume one that's coming out in December, correct? Um, is
Yes.
how many chapters? 5 chapters?
So that's something that I've been going back and forth about. So technically speaking, for the sake of copyright purposes, it was too tumultuous to try and copyright several volumes, especially if you wrote far beyond that, you'd end up having to wait and then you have to bunch another set. Otherwise, you're wasting
Oh,
money trying to submit like six when you could submit 10 maximum. So really they are chapters, but these chapters are they're long
okay.
enough to kind of be broken up, if you will. And eventually those chapters will all be put together in like one volume. And one volume, I would say, would probably have about six chapters, but that's farther down the line once we've released that many of them. This one chapter that's coming out, technically speaking, is going to be at least 100 pages
Oh,
more,
okay. Yeah.
100 plus pages. So
So not like a traditional manga format then. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, that's interesting. And so that I guess that's news for me because I mean, we've talked to hundreds of creators. I didn't know that, Chris, but you have to copyright each individual volume or chapter. Is that how that works, or like each individual book you put out, even though it's the same story?
Well, I'm realizing most people don't copyright their works. That's one big mistake.
Mhm.
Two, when you are the way they made the group of unpublished works application, you can submit up to 10 things. If you submit 10 chapters and say you've actually
Yep.
written like 20,
Yep.
that's 85. And you're going to have to pay another 85 to submit the other 10. Whereas it's easier if you take those 6 chapters, put them into one volume, bunch another 6, put them into another volume. That way you have maybe 3 volumes that encompass all of the chapters that have been made. Now you can submit 3 volumes to be copyrighted and everything has been covered. And
Okay.
you did that all in one application.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
I would say she's 100% correct. It's usually not done because of budgetary reasons
yeah,
with indie creators.
yep. Yeah, we don't talk about that much on here. I know it's not very exciting for you to talk about, but for me, it's like I'm like, oh, that's never really come up on here before after like 400 episodes. Yeah, I just want to say I took a look.
No,
Yeah,
it's important.
yep. It's always nice to understand that like behind the what goes into the creation of the book, especially if you want to take ownership of your own characters, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, intellectual property, most people like having worked in the film industry, this is something I've heard a lot about because I've spoken to a few people. I spoke to someone who was connected to I forgot what the name of the studio was. It was a studio that was behind They Cloned Tyrone.
Hmm.
And the person was telling me that they specialize just in intellectual property and kind of just passing it around, whatnot. And as you inevitably work in the industry, you also hear people talk about how they presented an idea to someone because they were desperate to get it out there. And of course, some forces and entities are banking on that desperation. So when you send it and it's not protected, they'll say, oh, no, this isn't good. And then a couple years later, a concept eerily similar to what you had comes out. And what are you going to do? Because you didn't protect yourself. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was one of the things my dad taught me from like a young age. Anything creative that you make, that was like the first thing he taught me was how to open up the system and go in and register things for copyright.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. You have that tool, and I didn't realize it was so predatory like that. It's like, oh, you didn't do it right, but now we have an idea to copyright on our own. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So the book comes out end of December for the chapter one. You said it's about 100 pages. That from the preview page I saw a few pages I saw. I thought it's really cool. Like you said, jam-packed with action. The characters look really interesting to me, and I'd love to know more about them. Is there anything else you want to say about the book itself, or for any listeners out there?
Mm. This series, I think, and this is going off of the feedback we actually just got when coming from Shao Kahn, a lot of people who liked that era of anime from like the 90s looked at it and said they had a very almost like vintage feel from the illustration style. I feel that if you liked the older generation of anime, then you're
Yep.
going to really like this. In terms of series, if you liked Akira, if you liked Cowboy Bebop, if anyone remembers Outlaw Star, or even Princess
Outlaw
Mononoke in terms
Star,
of
wow.
certain thematic elements. Yeah, that one was a big influence for me. I just finished rewatching that. I loved that one.
I saw years ago. I saw
Then
it.
you're gonna like the Seven Kingdoms.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
right, right.
it's like
Nostalgia.
yeah. When you talked about like old school anime on, staying up late and watching it on Adult Swim, I'm so happy that's a lot more easily accessible now, but that was the only way to see those things, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like a covert mission. You couldn't let the TV be too loud if your
Yeah.
parents would hear it and they'd be like, "What are you doing up?"
Yeah, right. Yep. And Inuyasha wouldn't come on till like 3 a.m. in the morning. It's like, oh my God, come on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would love to get a real quick comment about so you're doing pre-orders right now, and I see that you have a couple places you're doing pre-orders at, and I don't see Amazon on here. Is there a particular reason for that?
So Amazon is going to be up. Amazon is one of those picky ones where if it's not 500% completed, you can't upload it and they'll just keep rejecting it. I know from experience.
Okay.
I know from experience. Yeah, so I will But once it has been fully completed and I can upload every single thing, then that will be available. But it's going to be online at Walmart. We're going to try and get it in person. Books A Million, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple Books, Rakuten Kobo, all of these.
And then you have some sick merch for the book too, and I think you're wearing one of the shirts right now, right? Um,
I
yeah,
am.
nice. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, actually. So this is perfect because the pre-order window closes today.
Oh,
So I guess do with that what you will.
yeah.
But yeah, so we have a pre-order concept essentially that is people can pre-order the manga and they can right now they can just get the book if they want, but if they want the book sent to their doorstep with custom packaging and with like shirts, with key rings, with buttons, possibly with figurines, cough cough, possibly with acrylic stands or any other mystery item that is attached to the other pre-order packages, then you can get that all sent to you nicely bound at your doorstep. And eventually, it's not up there, but I'll go ahead and drop this with you guys. Eventually, there will be a system in place where you won't have to wait for the pre-order window to get this opportunity. There will be something in place where you can start paying for like the next chapter to be shipped to you just the same. And
Oh,
like the items you get with each package will kind of just be rotated so that you don't keep getting the same thing over and over again.
that's awesome.
I think what's interesting is us going through the merch because Mike was telling me about it before we were recording. Is that I can tell you're a manga fan because
Mhm.
manga fans in my life, they all have some of this stuff in their house, apartment, or whatever. And the one that sticks out is the stickers for
Yeah.
the PlayStation.
Yes. You know, I was actually thinking, when we were at Shao Kahn, we saw that, and I was like, you know what? I should have gotten some of those, and I should have had those on display. I bet you people would have loved that. So yes, that one's a big hit, it seems.
Console skins, that's awesome.
Yeah, console skins, cool wall art. I mean,
Yeah,
it's stuff that is definitely within that realm of fandom that I know
yeah,
very know well through other people. But I do like the button up
Mhm.
shirt. The button up shirt's
yeah.
really cool.
I was gonna say you could rock a crop top, Chris, but
And
maybe
nobody
I'll
wants
buy
to see
you
that, Mike. Nobody
one.
wants to see that.
I'm super excited for this, Robbie. I love the preview pages you had on there, and yeah, I can't wait for the chapter one to come out towards the end of this year. So, for any of our listeners, our viewers, if they want to follow you or the project, is there anywhere specific you want to send them?
Yes. So if people would like to follow us on Instagram, they can go to the underscore seventh. That's the number seven, TH underscore kingdom, where they can find us. And that will have a link to the sneak a peek edition, the preview. That will have a link to the pre-order page where they can go and pre-order when the window is open, or they can join the wait list and be notified when it's opened. If they want to follow us on TikTok, that's at the Seventh Kingdom, no underscores, no spaces. Or if they just want the website in general, rpxmediaproduction.com/the number seven th kingdom. And just keep up with the progress and where all we go. We're coming up in December, we're going to be going to Anime Weekend Atlanta. So
Cool,
that's going to
awesome.
be an opportunity to come out and see not just the merch, but also there are going to be two characters revealed from upcoming chapters.
Oh,
And
cool.
then there's also going to be some combat outfit reveals because what you've seen, for example, in the sneak a peek cover is Claire Bell's outfit like right now. She's still getting used to the world, but when she gets ready to you know, tear people up, she's gonna have a different outfit.
Nice.
Um,
That's awesome.
so yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Very
Thank you.
cool. So everybody out there watching and or listening, you should know the drill by now. There are links in the show notes down below. I'll have a link to the website where you can get all this information about the pre-order, where all the merch is and all that kind of fun stuff. So check out those links down below. Robbie, thanks so much for stopping by and chatting with us for a little bit. It's been a pleasure, and best of luck with the
Mhm.
pre-order process.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been great.